All right, hello everybody. It's Billy and Megan here from NUTMEG'S, and we're here today to share a little bit about our October nonprofit partner, which is the Night Ministry. We're joined today by Burke, who's a communications manager at Night Ministry, and Andrew, who is the volunteer coordinator, who will share a little bit about the organization. So Burke, let me start with you. Can you give me a little bit of an overview of the Night Ministry? What is the impact you all are trying to make here in Chicago, and how are you going about doing it?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it, and thanks for everyone who's tuning in and watching. And so the Night Ministry is a Chicago-based nonprofit that provides housing, healthcare, and human connection to members of our community struggling with homelessness or poverty. We began in 1976 with just one person, Tom Behrens, offering coffee and compassion out of the trunk of his car. He reached out to people experiencing homelessness, poverty, and loneliness on the streets of Chicago at night. So for several years, it was Tom and eventually additional staff and volunteers just concentrating on street outreach. They were literally walking the streets of the city, visiting places such as all-night restaurants and taverns, offering support and a listening ear to the folks that they encountered. Along the way, Tom began to see and hear about the needs that people on the streets had that weren't being addressed, particularly in the areas of healthcare and services for homeless youth. And so he set about building an organization that could provide those resources. And from those beginnings as a one-person organization, we've grown 44 years later into an expanding organization that provides life-changing and life-saving resources to more than 6,000 young people and adults every year. We recently relocated our headquarters to Chicago's Bucktown neighborhood into a facility that is enhancing the services we provide while improving the efficiency of our operations and positioning us to continue innovating. So there's an estimated 77,000 people who experience homelessness a year in Chicago. More than 11,000 of them are young people between the ages of 14 to 24 who are on their own without support of family. So what our youth programs do are provide safe housing and supportive services to teens and young adults who are struggling with homelessness. We have a youth outreach team that connects with young people living on the streets, helping them meet their basic needs and linking them with services such as housing, whether that's at the Night Ministry or at other agencies. We also operate 6 youth housing programs, which range from the Crib, which is our overnight shelter for young adults, to a 2-year transitional living programs. One of our programs is the only shelter in the city to reserve beds for pregnant or parenting women as young as 14. And another is the first in Chicago to exclusively serve high school students who are experiencing housing instability. And our newest housing program is a partnership with other Chicago nonprofits in which we support young adults who are living in market rate rental apartments in the community. The ministry's health outreach program brings healthcare directly to people where they live. We have a health outreach bus, which has been in operation since the late 1980s, which visits neighborhoods across Chicago with high concentrations of homelessness and poverty. Visitors who come to the bus can see a nurse practitioner. They can also get a meal, get clothing, and see our case manager to get help with things like signing up for health insurance, food benefits, or housing. And while many of the folks who visit the bus aren't literally living on the streets or living in a shelter, their housing is usually very precarious or inadequate. They may be living in an apartment without a lease, or an apartment without a refrigerator, stove, or hot water. Or they're spending much more on rent than is what is considered affordable, leaving little money left over for other essentials such as healthcare, food, and childcare. So the services of the Night Ministry's health outreach bus help fill in those gaps. So we know that homelessness is often an isolating and lonely experience. Folks living through homelessness very often lack the types of supportive relationships that we all need in our lives. That's why human connection is such an important part of the Night Ministry's mission. Now, we know that sometimes just being there is one of the most important things that we can do, but we also know that we have to build relationships with the people we serve. So that's why we show up when we say we do. Our health bus is always on a regular, health outreach bus is always on a regular schedule. The street medicine team makes regular stops to people and encounters them on a regular basis. The folks who work in our youth housing programs make relationships with the young people who come to stay with us. And we don't judge, we accept people for who they are, and we hope that these relationships can become the foundation for journeys for greater stability. So that's kind of the Night Ministry in a nutshell. And just to add that, we've continued offering services throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that it's been challenging for all of us, but it's been particularly challenging for folks who are experiencing homelessness or poverty. And we've found innovative ways to continue to serve while keeping ourselves and our clients safe and healthy.
And then we also have Andrew with us. Andrew is the volunteer coordinator. Could you just talk a little bit about volunteer opportunities that people have? I know with COVID, times are weird, but just kind of go over some volunteer opportunities.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks for having us today. So as Burke mentioned, we had our first staff member, Tom Behrens, and he had 2 observations when he was out on the streets. And the 2 of those were, there was a large youth homeless population in the city of Chicago, and there was a need for services on the street. And from those 2 observations came pretty much our 2 branches of volunteering that we have now. So those are the outreach volunteers and our housing volunteers. We have volunteers that go out regularly each night with our health outreach bus. We have 3 volunteers that go out, and they're in probably what we call like a hospitality role. So they're handing out survival supplies, food, and just kind of interacting with our clients. And then we also have what we call hangout volunteers in our youth housing programs. And we kind of leave that role a little vague, so you can kind of build your experience in the housing programs. But across all of our programs, we really stress that human connection aspect that Burke mentioned. So we really stress that volunteers come out regularly, interact with the clients, have conversations, and kind of just get to know our clients. A lot of them, as Burke mentioned, are experiencing loneliness, and a conversation goes a long way. And then on top of the individual volunteering, we also have group volunteering. And that's basically, at this time, mainly meal group volunteers. And when we say that is volunteers can reach out to me. They can sign up to provide meals with our health outreach bus or at our crib shelter in that 1735 North Ashland location in Bucktown. But the meals are really critical because on a given night, a lot of our clients are either receiving their first meal or their first adequate meal from our health outreach bus or for our crib. And we really strive to make sure that each night we have enough meals to supply our clients. But those are the 2 the 2 main options for volunteering. And if anyone's interested in volunteering, they're more than welcome to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to get them going.
Yeah, awesome, cool. So one follow-up question, and I guess it can go to Burke or Andrew, but start with Burke. Like, in the midst of such an overwhelming problem, you mentioned the number of homeless people that are in the city of Chicago. How do you maintain hope, basically? Like, it's such a big issue that's happening in our city, and how do you maintain hope? I'm sure there's good days and there's bad days. There's tough days. There's good interactions and not so good interactions. How do you maintain hope?
I think a lot of it is celebrating successes. And I think what that means is you have to maybe redefine what success is. We're not gonna have kind of the homeless to Harvard story that is kind of glorified. If that happens, great. But it's often, the person who was on the streets for years and that got into housing. That's actually a big success. The person that we helped get into housing, the person that we helped maintain their housing. It's the person who gets an ID. a lot of people don't have, who are living on the streets, they don't have their identification.
Yeah.
They need that ID to get into so many other things. So when we help them get that ID, and we're able to hand it over to them, because oftentimes they'll have mail sent to us and then we get out to them. That's an incredible moment. When somebody gets signed up for food benefits, when somebody gets a job, when somebody gets linked to a primary health care doctor and they're able to make those visits, those are the successes that we celebrate. And those happen very often.
If I can piggyback off that, as the volunteer coordinator, it's amazing to see every single day I'm fielding 5 to 10 emails from individuals that want to start volunteering with us. So we're really fortunate to have like an amazing donor base and an amazing volunteer pool. We've had to reduce the number of volunteers we send out just so we're social distancing and whatnot. And we have routinely full shifts with our health outreach bus. And we've had some of our housing program volunteers shift over to the bus just to fill other holes. And it's just amazing seeing that kind of resiliency and that dedication from our volunteers and our donors as well.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for talking with us and sharing about the Night Ministry with us and all our followers. Just shout out to the Night Ministry. This month, $3 of every online purchase will go straight to them. So yeah, hope everyone has a good October.
Thank you for having us, and it's so incredibly generous of you and your customers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.